Welcome to the Tone Jerks After Dark, the only podcast that tells you everything you want to know about gear but were afraid to ask. Segment 1, The Week in Pod.
In this segment, we go round the horn to wrap up what's going down on the hottest gear pods. Over at the JHS pod, Josh Scott gives off creepy youth pastor vibes, and we all feel a little worried about that kid he makes play drums for him. On the effects loop, the pod is 83% dead air, as Scott steadfastly refuses to yes and any attempts at humor by Diaz. The remainder of the episode is Diaz getting high and accidentally logging off Zoom. Going across the pond, on the Guitar Nerds, Joe Branton finds a Boss pedal in the boot of a lorry right under a pram and takes it home to his flat. Isn't it? Staying in merry old England, on That Pedal Show, Dan's wet, dry, wet, 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 dry, moist, dry rig becomes self-aware and attempts to launch Russia's nuclear arsenal. On the Tone Control, the hosts open with a 25-minute long discussion of their wholesome family lives, and no one knows what happens after that because we all fell asleep. Finally, on the Cumtown podcast, the hosts say some hack, borderline racist edgelord shit. Probably. I don't listen to that.
Segment 2, Erotic Story Time. Draw a bubble bath and pour yourself a big glass of Pinot. It's story time.
Kyle and Brian were friends all through high school. Neither of them ever had much luck with the girls. Not that they didn't want to, they just never really figured out how to talk to them. They sure were looking forward to college where they hoped they'd finally get laid. But here they were, back in their hometown for the summer and having to admit to each other that it hadn't happened for either of them. You just don't get it, Brian, Kyle said to him as they sat by the fan in the jerk lounge trying to catch a breeze on a hot day. It's just that, well, how's a guy supposed to concentrate on school and music and everything when he's always got a distraction? Brian said. Yeah, Brian, guess you could call it that. I am a little distracted right now, Brian said, surprising himself by pointing out his arousal. Brian was even more surprised when Brian noticed Kyle looking down at his pants where they must have been bulging. Brian was embarrassed, but then Brian saw the look on Kyle's face wasn't mean or mocking. He looked like he understood, and Brian guessed he did. They were both in the same situation. Hot, hard, hadn't been laid, and ready for some relief. Kyle looked up, blushed a little from having been caught checking his boy out, and adjusted himself. The state they were in was giving them an idea, not fully formed, but getting there. Brian wasn't sure if Kyle would go for it, wasn't sure that he would either actually, and definitely wasn't sure how to bring it up. Then Kyle gave him an opening. Have you ever heard about a thing called an Evertune? Oops, that's all the time we have tonight. Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion of our story.
Segment 3, Final Thought. Until next time, boys and girls, remember, if you had learned to be a DJ instead of picking up a guitar, you would probably be at an all-night orgy in Ibiza right now.
Bang,